welcome back to Sunday Dinners with Michelle. It's been a while, so I hope you're all excited for our next episode. This episode, we are going to honor Italian Heritage Month by making homemade pasta and Sunday gravy. So Sunday gravy is really something that's more of an Italian-American tradition. It typically has meatballs, sausage, and different kinds of meat mixed in the tomato sauce, simmers slowly all day, and we're going to use that to top our homemade pasta. So just a quick start for the homemade pasta, it's really something super simple that you can make. If you don't want to try to make it at home, you can find it readily available in many supermarkets. But we'll just kind of go through the recipe really quickly if you're interested in trying to make this for your family, which I really do think you should try at least once. So this basic recipe for homemade pasta is an egg-based pasta. So you will use 6 eggs, 4 cups of all-purpose flour, and about a half a cup of warm water, 1 teaspoon of salt, and about a tablespoon of olive oil. What you do at first is just mix together the egg, salt, and olive oil in a standing mixer. Then you slowly incorporate the flour until it's fully mixed. When everything's fully mixed together, you take the dough out of the mixer, wrap it in plastic, and let it rest for an hour. That is so important. It has to rest for at least 1 hour. It can rest longer, but that really allows the gluten in the flour to form and rest. That way you don't have a tough pasta and it's easier to roll out. So my grandma's rule of thumb was always, if you're making homemade pasta with no other sides, just your pasta, meatball, sausage, etc., 1 egg per person. If you are making some other meat, whether it's a prime rib or some other roast, eggplant, something else, you could probably get 2 servings out of 1 egg. So that's kind of her rule of thumb that I've always followed. So this recipe has 6 eggs. So we're making, like I said, for 6 people. The dough has rested for about an hour and a half. So what we're going to do at this point, since the dough is rested, just turn it out into a floured surface. And we are going to just cut it into 6 pieces to make it manageable through the pasta machine. So I have a pasta machine that attaches basically onto either your countertop or a wooden board or a table. So you're going to attach it to your surface. Some KitchenAid mixers or standing mixers sell the pasta attachment. That's also a great option for you as well if you're not looking to get a freestanding pasta machine maker, but I use this all the time. So I do have the freestanding mixer. So what you're going to do after you cut the pasta into 6 pieces, you're just going to take your first piece, roll it out with a rolling pin just to kind of flatten it out and try and make it into a rectangle shape for your first pass through the pasta machine. So the pasta machine, it really is up to you in terms of your thickness, what you prefer. And you kind of have to play around with your pasta machine to see what would work best for you and your machine. So the first thing you're going to do before putting the pasta through the machine is make sure you sprinkle this with flour. We do not want it to stick in the pasta machine, so this is a very important step. So we're going to do this. We have the setting on 1. You're just going to simply pass it through. What's important about the first step is really where you start to get the shape of the pasta dough. So this you're going to pass through 2 times. So on setting 1, you're going to pass through 2 times. So the first time you pass it through, you're going to fold in the corners, try to square it or rectangle it off again so that we can get an even pass through. And you're going to go again through setting 1. You will continue this process with the dough, passing it through, thinning it out through the settings. I'll move on to setting 2. Today we're going to make homemade spaghetti. The spaghetti setting that works best in this pasta machine, I typically roll it through to a 7 and then put it through the cutting edge of the spaghetti. If I want to do the fettuccine, that one I try to keep a little bit thicker, so that one I'll roll out to 5. And if I'm doing handmade shapes, typically I'll do a 7 as well. So we're going to continue just passing this through each setting. It's really quick. And as you continue to pass through, you'll start to feel the dough getting a little softer and a little bit more tacky. And that's when you're going to sprinkle it with additional dough, like additional flour. As I said previously, you do not want this to stick to your pasta machine. That would be just such a challenge for you to clean it out. So before passing it through into our next setting, which would be 4, we're just going to try and pull out the corners and keep it all even. You don't want to go too quickly. If you go too quickly, it is going to rip the pasta dough. So just make sure that you're taking your time passing it through the pasta machine. So we passed it through 6 times. We are going to flour this for our last pass through 7. So we've now passed the pasta dough through and made the sheet. Like I said, we're on number 7. At this point, you're going to take a straight edge. This is a dough scraper that has a straight edge that we can cut through. Basically, you're going to measure it out to about 10 to 12 inches, depending on how long you like your spaghetti. So we're just going to cut that through here. This is going to be about 3 pieces. We are going to add just a little bit of flour here so it doesn't stick. We're going to move our handle up into our thin spaghetti setting and pass the sheet into our pasta maker. So at this point, if you have a pasta drying rack, you can hang it over the pasta drying rack. You could also just lay it out flat on your counter if you plan to cook it soon. And what many Italian Americans do, especially for our holidays, is we will actually lay a sheet out on our bed, a clean sheet out on the bed, and lay our pasta out there. And once our guests arrive, we will go and retrieve the fresh pasta off the sheet and cook it for our dinner. So we allow it to dry a little bit before cooking. So I'm going to continue doing this for all of our pasta before we go ahead and cook it. And just a suggestion for all of you is just something that I loved growing up, and I know my kids love growing up, is helping out in the kitchen. So this is really a great opportunity to get your kids involved. They love mixing the dough, rolling it out, making the pasta, and then being able to share in the enjoyment of everyone eating it together and enjoying it. So that's my tip for you guys today, and I will meet you back in a little bit when we're done rolling everything out. So we finished rolling out all of our pasta. We have a large pot of water boiling. We added kosher salt to our pot of boiling water, and now we're just going to cook the fresh pasta. Fresh pasta does not take long to cook at all. So basically you are just going to dump it into the boiling water. We're going to do 2 batches at a time. So that's the first half that we rolled out. Just dump that into the water and give it a stir to kind of separate the pasta. So we're going to stir it around. We want to make sure it doesn't stick together, that it's all broken up. So basically the water is going to come back up to a boil. You're going to see the pasta come float to the top. At that point, it takes about 2 more minutes to cook, and we will, at that point, test our pasta to see if it's ready to take out of the water, and then move on. So our pasta has come up to the top. The water began to boil. It's been cooking for about 2 minutes now. So we're just going to lower the heat as we drain our pasta out into a colander. It's important that you do drain fresh pasta well. It does hold a lot of water, but then it will soak up your sauce. So you want to make sure that it isn't too watery before you add your sauce. So we're going to continue to remove the pasta, the first batch, from our water. We'll bring it back up to a boil and cook our second batch of pasta before we get it ready to serve. So we completed cooking all of our homemade pasta. Now we're just going to mix it together with our Sunday gravy. So we're going to put some sauce on the bottom of the bowl before we add our fresh pasta to it. Add about half of the pasta. We're going to put some more of the sauce in. This way we have layers and layers going in. And as I said earlier, fresh pasta really absorbs your sauce, so you're definitely going to need extra. More than you would from dried pasta that you buy in a supermarket. Just add a couple of needles right here. We don't waste any of that goodness. We'll add some more sauce on top of this. I'm going to continue to just mix this through, make sure we have sauce covering all of our pasta. As you can see, it's quickly absorbing all of the sauce I've already added. So the meatballs, the sausage, ribs, whatever you put in your gravy, Sunday gravy. Just top our pasta with that. Make that look pretty. What we're gonna do right now is clean our bowl. So let me grab a paper towel. We always eat with our eyes first, so we're gonna make sure we have this looking pretty before we carry that over to our table. It seems I'm just making a bigger mess as I clean off the edges here. And of course, we are going to top this with some freshly grated Pecorino Romano and Reggiano Parmigiano cheese. And there you have it. Homemade Italian pasta with Sunday gravy. And as my grandmother would always say, bambini, se pronta le mangiare. Enjoy.